Hey, so I'm not going to do my introduction. So to me, Nassir is one of the most individual designers working in London today, in 21st century London. His work is immediately identifiable, and his recent work has shown that it's identifiable beyond logo as well. He's one of the most accomplished designers we have, creating work of tension and great complexity. He's also one of the most decisive, making decisions about his brand and his career, about making sure it goes the way he wants to go rather than the way an industry might expect it to go. I'm really aware that we're in the London College of Fashion tonight, and I really hope that Nassir's story and his opinions will be really super inspirational to help you think for yourself, to take risks, to find your own language, to create your own tradition, to not think you have to follow a conservative path within fashion. We're going to talk for like 40 minutes or so, and then we'll open the floor to questions. Please do ask questions, even if it just is, how did you meet Skepta, which I might ask myself anyway. But Nassir, please, can you start off by talking a bit about like your background? So you were completely self-taught, right? You didn't study fashion.
I didn't study fashion at all. No, I finished school at 16. I knew that I didn't want to go to college. Yeah. So I started a modern apprenticeship at Vidal Sassoon. So I started to do hairdressing. And then the reason for that is because I knew that I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know about the world of arts or fashion or... Yeah, so Vidal Sassoon at the time was sponsoring London Fashion Week. So anyway, I did that for like a few years and then left, started to work on Brick Lane at another hairdresser's, but at the same time I was assisting for like shows, did like a couple of seasons of shows, did some shoots, like editorial work, and then started playing with sculptures for hair. Then these sculptures, I've said this so many times, then the sculptures like slowly turned into headpieces themselves. And then I started to realise there's so much more I can do with all these materials rather than hair. So then slowly started to do it. It was all very natural, it was all very slow and all very experimental. Well, anyway. And then carried on experimenting with hair, then with like these head sculptures. And then I don't know, it just kind of just... Is that really echoey?
Yeah,
is it too close? Then what happened? What happened after that? I look at you. Maybe move, yeah. Distract me. Where was I?
So basically, when did you first get a feel for materials? Like when did you first get a feel that you wanted to actually
make stuff?
Yeah, make stuff beyond
hats.
Well, no, beyond like working with the hair. Like what was the?
I don't know. It was all very like just slowly progressive. I was experimenting because I didn't go to college. I never had an education in the world of arts or fashion. So I didn't know anything about. I'd never made anything in my life. So I was literally just picking up wire and making sculpture, I suppose. I mean, a lot of it weren't really even headwear. It was more like sculpture, and somehow I just made it work on the head. Yeah. And then doing that, and slowly I realised that I couldn't really show like a full look. I couldn't really sell my idea or show my idea because you're very limited to just the head. Yeah. So then that slowly turned into clothing. And then the clothing, to be honest, I don't really know how to... Now I do, but I'm not a pattern cutter. I'm not really a sewer. So I don't really know how to make clothes. As in, as in me personally, I couldn't, do a pattern for like this. It would take me ages. Yeah. So, and then I suppose slowly it turned into headwear, and then into clothing, and then then we've got like the full collection. I mean, that's like in a nutshell. I didn't want to go on because I've spoken. You've probably all heard it so many times. Yeah. I've said it quite a lot. Yeah.
So what are we looking at here on the screen? What's this?
And to be honest, a lot of the ways that I work is not like... I don't even know how to explain how I work a lot of the time because it's not really based around a theme too much. Again, like a lot of my early work was my college years, say. So it was pure experiment, and I didn't have like a direct vision of what I wanted to do at all. So I didn't bring all the pictures, but say there was like this, like, it's like, what is that really? I don't really know.
What is it? What is it actually made of? Tell me, like, what is it made of?
It's made of, that's like is it gourd? Is it called gourd, that vegetable?
Okay.
Anybody know? Yeah. It's like a dried vegetable. Yeah, I bought it on Dalston Market. It's like, I don't know, they're like bowls and spoons. And then I kind of like laced it together with some like cord, and then there's some mesh, I think it's called Variform, which is a material you can heat with a hairdryer or hot water, and then you can mould it over anything. It kind of stretches. And I suppose I don't know, it's like, it looks a bit Asian. It looks a bit samurai, it looks a bit sporty. But yeah, it wasn't like, oh, this is what I'm going to make. Yeah. At that stage, it was like, oh, just these materials look good together, like these colours look good together. It's kind of like blagging it in a way. I wasn't purposefully blagging, but I was just making stuff because I'd never made anything.
Because I've never seen this before. So what's extraordinary to me about that is like the levity of it and the fact that from this gourd you've created this thing that looks like something that could also be in the British Museum from like some artefact or something. Like that you obviously have something in your hands that allows you to make something I could never. I mean, I couldn't make a hat from a gourd.
No, maybe, but yeah, I think at that stage I might have done like one hat course at Chelsea and Kensington, and from that there isn't really much hat making skills. I don't think it's. I mean, technically, that there's a few eyelets and some moulded Variform, and that's it. I like hand stitch the binding on. There's not really much technical skills to that, to be honest. Yeah. And I think a lot of the stuff in the beginning there wasn't. It's very just crafts, hand on. I could do it without going to college. Yeah. So a lot of the early work was, I suppose you could say, quite primitive, maybe. But, yeah. But then part of that same collection, I wish I'd bought everything now, but I thought I shouldn't. But there was all sorts of things. There was like a boater, very like traditional English boater. There was like a small straw hat with like a rolled brim. It was all kind of simple stuff that I could just do. There was this, which was called press conference, which was supposed to. I mean, there was like a bit of a concept to that, but it was supposed to be you were a walking press conference wherever you went. So wherever you went, you had these mics ready to.
Now, I actually know this piece really well because I actually called this in when I worked on GQ. I don't know why. I don't know if we even used it, but I had it in the office, and I used to walk around wearing it because I was obsessed. Because if you basically you go into it, you put it on, and you have the microphones.
The mics come.
They're like your face, like your.
Yeah, it goes on your head, goes down your back, and then the wires come up underneath your armpits, and you've got this press conference. But again, for that, there wasn't. I was just binding wire, and underneath the microphone caps is like plastic bottles. So, yeah, that was.
And where did you show? How did you show it? Like, what was the? How did this
come about?
Where did you show it? Was it like?
At that time, I did cut a bit out of the beginning bit. So after I'd like worked with Mark Wheeler for a bit, done some courses with Jane Smith. Yeah. I put this collection together, and I'd made some historical headwear as well, like a calash, bonnets, like hennins and butterflies, and all sorts of like 14th century headwear, like really, really historical. And I fret Jeanette. Jeanette introduced me to Mandy Leonard's, and she took me on board basically straight away. And she was like, "Right, let's just start showing it to all the press, like all the."
So we should say Mandy Leonard is still a PR, but she was then a super influential PR in early 21st century East London, and she did like brands like Gareth Pugh and people. Kim Jones. She was
doing Gareth, like cassette player at the time, like loads. Yeah.
And Jeanette did the Dora boombox, was super important.
Yeah.
At this time, could you have gone down the path of like Ascot hats and Stephen Jonesy kind of like Philip Tracy? Like, did you make a decision away from the traditional idea of millinery, or like was it like?
That was just naff to me. It was like really, really naff.
Yeah.
There was nothing new about it. It weren't pushing any like. It weren't pushing anything. It weren't saying anything to me really. It was just old hat. Like sorry, but it was like really old.
Yeah.
So that was never a thing. And again, at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I really didn't, and I didn't have a clue about the fashion industry. I didn't have a clue about the world of how it works. I was just happy to make. I was like working part-time and just experimenting. And I suppose I was just really lucky that at the time there was no one really doing any headwear. It was like literally Stephen Jones or Philip Trace, and I think Noel Stewart might have been around, and there was another guy, Justin Smith, but it was very niche. So yeah, about the right time.
Yeah, yeah. When did you invent?
This was like I think the season after that.
Right.
So I made this in like maybe 2007, and I've been working on it for quite a while, but nobody cared. People were just like, oh, what's this hat? That was it.
Yeah.
What's that? Why are you showing me this little hat? It's just a cap. And I was like, you're joking? I've like revolutionised the cap here. Like, I've spent like so long myself trying to do the patterns and got so many different people to work on the patterns. Like, couldn't get it right. So this came quite early, but it took years and years. Like, it must have taken like 5 years for people to like clock on.
Yeah. And you're sat the right side because have you got a pencil in your?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you don't. Okay. Because like there's a pencil slot on that side, right?
Yeah, and again, that was just, I thought it looked good, and I always wanted the pencil to be behind my ear, but my ears are quite big, so it never stayed. So again, it just happened, it was an aesthetic thing. Like a lot of my work, is, for me, it has to be like aesthetically pleasing. Like concept, like nowadays, isn't so much of a thing for me, it's just like how it looks.
Yeah. Was that the first time that you used like nylon and like webbing and like, was that because those are real signatures for you now, aren't they? Like,
yeah, maybe it was. Maybe I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, so the next step? What's your next slide?
Next slide. I've probably missed the next like 3 or 4 collections.
Okay, all right.
But then it was like this kind of vein and historical. It was like a very traditional historical headwear, which for me was how to learn how to make, because it was pleating and like ruffles and like covering shapes, like all hand sewing, and I didn't know at all. So all of the historical stuff I made was myself educating myself. So I did some courses, and then I'd just make loads at home. Yeah. I'd make every day, like every single day. I was like making.
Right.
Yeah. But next slide.
Go on.
This is AW09, and that was like the orb that we done. I forgot what you called it now, but yeah, we've done this, and then there was. So you can see again, so like it's like brass work. I got someone to help me make that because I'm not a jewelry maker, and I didn't know how to like. I couldn't do that myself. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that we have worked on has been helped by other people as well. Like the next piece is like hand molded leather, brim of some description. You know, it's very abstract. It's not. The beginning stuff was much more arty.
Yeah.
Definitely much more arty, and definitely much more conceptual as well. In like the shows, like the first presentation we did was this. It's really naff to like apocalyptic, but it was like. I swear that was quite naff, but yeah, it was like this apocalyptic like mix of 14th century disaster comes stroke space, like really naff like references, but things that we all love. You know, well, maybe not 14th century, but like we were doing like space helmets, and it was weird. It was like there was like this like big like historical red hats, and then like bishops like cloaks. So we did do some clothing at the very beginning. Weird things like space helmets. You have to look like. I wish I had the pictures. Like hennin is like basically like a long tubular hat with these wire structure that comes off it, and then the fabric hangs off that and to the floor fabric. Right. And then butterflies again is like I don't know. You'd have to like look it up. Look out, 14th century butterfly.
But the thing I think that's interesting about this is that it's very unfamiliar. People wouldn't necessarily say if you showed that, oh, that's your work. Mm-mm. But I think what it shows really early on an interest in technique and in craft, which you then put into your later work, even though people might not recognise it being there. Like, there's always been a attention to like what you can do with
that's
materials.
The foundations, yeah. Like I suppose that's the foundations of like where I've come from and what I did. But really, this is my college years.
Right.
Because at college, you should be experimenting constantly, and you should really be like just exploring. Like try all different styles of aesthetics. Like try making different styles of clothing, different shapes. I suppose that's the only way you're going to find. And that was my college years. But I was actually thrown in at the deep end because when I'd done my first presentation, I probably only made like 20 hats. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything, but I suppose because I was making something that nobody else was doing, and it is very like, it is arty, you know, it's like, it's aesthetically pleasing. You're like, what is that? You really question like a lot, what is going on? So I think I maybe like, yeah, I suppose I found like a niche and like, it was interesting, but
yeah.
Oh,
Next one, go on.
Next one. Okay, so because after this, after 2009, the British Fashion Council were like, you don't have a viable business, you don't have a commercially viable business. Mandy Leonard kind of got rid of everyone that she was looking after.
She closed down, didn't she, pretty much, yeah?
Yeah, she kind of just stopped doing it in the like the way that she was doing. So I was kind of like left with not much, to be honest. I didn't really know that many people in the industry, hadn't had like been able to build up a relationship with people. So I was like, do you know what, fuck it. I'm into like hoish girls, and I'm into like nails and like grills and like hip hop and like all this stuff. So I was like, I'm actually going to do what I like. So then we'd done this like underground club thing in the vaults at Somerset House. We had a DJ, and like you'd walk in and she'd be the first person you saw, and she was like kind of grinding. There was a pole, and she would be like grinding on this pole, and each character had like, she was called No Face, and then there's like another one called like Claw Face. There's like Moon Face, and like this, all these like people, all these like different characters. And that's when we started street casting as well. And I thought, this is what I'm into, and this is what I'm gonna do. Like fuck it.
Yeah.
So that the mask, is just like I don't know what you'd really call that either. Or the purpose for it. There's no purpose for it. You can't really wear it because you can't see. It's just a look. It was just about creating this fantasy club life that I dream of. Because I'd always I think when I was 16, I read Lee Barry's autobiography, and I started getting into like this weird world of like, I didn't know anything about that stuff. So then I started to get into this, just started dreaming about club life and just fantasy, I suppose. And just like all the things I was into, like fetishes, like clubbing, garage, like weird sexy stuff, like freaky weird things. And so we'd done that, and then that was literally a disc of chiffon with like rings stitched into it, which is really, really difficult actually, to like stitch symmetrical rings into a circle of chiffon. But it was just about disguising her, really. It's like you don't really know who she is, but she's got like a banging body.
It's interesting because you're kind of mostly known as menswear, right? But actually, it's always been both.
It's always been both. Yeah, it's always been both. This again, it was a print that we done, and we just stole some pictures off the internet of like girls in like bikinis with like big boobs and like looking sexy, like basically hip hop girls, like hip hop honeys, and like this like print. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird, you know. There's like that girl with that massive doll's head, that massive bow. It was just freaky. I was just trying to excite myself.
And also, this was super radical because when you say it was in the vaults of Somerset House, so basically, London Fashion Week at that time was in Somerset House, down in the Strand, and underneath it is this world of these strange old arches and stuff.
It's where they buried people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to bury people down here, and there's still like some sort of tombstones in there as well.
Yeah, and so at the time it was super radical to be doing this work underneath where really boring people were showing upstairs. So
yeah, and I think it weren't on schedule. There was no sponsorship. Lulu Kennedy, I think, was like, Nassir, we've got this space. Do you want to use it? And I was like, yeah, definitely, of course. And yeah, this is what like came out. So I don't know if there's anything else in there as well from that. This was like another aluminium claw that kind of like grabs the face with, again, this like four plait braid, and then this weird like, I was like looking at loads of like, love beads and like butt plugs, and it was like that's one of my favourite collections. That's one of my favourite hats.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else from that. Then
This was your first actual show, right?
this again, I had like no sponsorship, and Lulu was like, I know you don't do runway, but do you want to do one? I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Because at the time, it's like I had no money, like no one was like backing me. So I was like, of course. And then you can't really see, but that's like a hand-moulded... I was working with Kay Simmons on all the leather work, and she's like a traditional saddler. So all handmade leather, and that's like a hand-moulded and curled leather hairstyle, which we used for SHOWstudio, actually, I think in 2009. And again, it was like, that's the bully cap there, but you can't really see it. And it was like, yeah, this collection was like looking at loads of like black metal and just something a bit darker. So it's like we were making these like aluminium fists and like the glitter vomit. And
would you say were they the first trap pants you did?
they were just like wet look, just like a wet look trouser.
Right.
We just did that just for the show. It wasn't
Okay.
really, like, didn't really want to like talk about it much.
Yeah.
What else was from here? I think I missed a couple of collections in between. Then we went to another one. Again, it was like, no one's backing you. Lulu, thank God for like Lulu Kennedy. She was like, we've got this space at the old Eurostar terminal. Do you want to do something? But at that time, there weren't really anybody casting like that. There wasn't nobody making headway like that. And when we did this presentation, we done it, I think it was after Louise Gray or Medium Kirchhoff, and a lot of people who had come... The way we done it is like guests would come in, they'd go upstairs and they'd be seated, and then we set up. So they didn't know what to they didn't know it was going to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think we sent invites or anything.
Yeah.
And then when guests came down, there was this huge group. There was like 15 or 16 group of kids, and a lot of people were just like, oh, fuck, like just walked straight out, didn't even stop to like to even question it, which was quite weird. I thought it was very rude, but. Yeah. So that was like, again, another hand-molded like hairstyle, like a rubber fringe for hair. It was like hairstyles. I was like, researching a lot of hairstyles, and obviously the background in hair. And this girl, another street caster, found her at bowling. This was like a couple of do-rags and like small little Muslim caps. You know, like the Muslim caps that they wear. It's like some like dreadlocks. I've forgotten that guy's name. So I suppose in this one it was a weird mix of influences as well, like Caribbean, and I don't know what other pictures there are. I didn't bring all the pictures, so I can't really explain fully. I didn't want to like bore you. Should I carry on talking?
Yeah, carry on. No, I'm obsessed. I'm funny and fascinated. I love looking at them. I mean, like the thing is, these shows were super, super exciting because it was this thing where you'd come from a very formal setting, where seated, where there's a front row, whatever, and then you come down and you would have a sound system playing super loud, super like beyond like probably what it should have been.
This one was we done a soundtrack for Lil Kim for this.
Yeah.
For that presentation, I don't have it here, but what are you saying?
I'm just saying that it was a really radical way of showing fashion, and one that no one else was doing.
Yeah.
Because most people were relying on 30 looks shown on a formal catwalk, whereas yours was models, street cast.
Yeah. And no one was doing that. I think when they first gave us a presentation, they said to us, no, we've created a presentation platform for you. Yeah. Because no one was doing presentations then. No one was doing anything like this then, I don't think.
Yeah.
And again, like there was no one before me, so I didn't really have anything there to think like, oh, they done this, so I've got to do that. I had no role model, I suppose. So I was kind of free to do whatever I want, and I wasn't afraid to like do weird stuff and like push it and like to say like I don't want to like. That's after that second collection, it was like a big turning point for me. Because I just like, you want me to do like wearable hats and like and it's like that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm here to do. So I suppose it's just all a continuation of just showing like an other world.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the things of like showing like African Caribbean cultures, like I know all the dancehall things and like all the like just talking about like tracksuits and like rude boys or whatever you want to call it. Like, yeah, it was about trying to make people see that world in an artistic way and in a creative way and in a respectful way as well. Like, because I've said it like a lot as well. Like, I feel like I repeat myself.
No, it's not. You're not at all.
But for me, like at the time, like a lot of like that stuff with all the nails and like grills and all like the hairstyles and that for me was art, and that for me was like one of the last like cultures, or like not cultures, maybe like subcultures where people are thought there's a way to dance, there's a way to look. You have to do your hair, you have to do your nails, you dress in a certain way. And there's so much attention paid to like detail, like so much attention, but it was always just seen as like whatever, common or rough, and it's like I never saw it like I never ever saw it like that. So I kind of like made this thing to myself, like I'm gonna push it and like really try to make people see it, respect it, see it in a different light. And I think we've got there though, like after years of doing that, like, and obviously other people doing it as well, I think it's like changed a lot.
Yeah. And also people come to London Fashion Week and then look at clothes which are for Mayfair or West London or Cocktail Society, and it's like, it's London Fashion Week and here is London as the city as it is. Like,
yeah, and that world, I still don't really understand, like that world of say Mayfair or you know, spending thousands of pounds and stuff. Like, it's just on like not that that's a bad thing, but I wasn't from that world, and I didn't really I don't understand it. Like I don't. Yeah. How can I relate to it when I'm?
Is that the first time?
That's the first bucket.
Yeah, so I'm obsessed with the bucket.
That's the first bucket head, yeah.
I'm obsessed
and it was just the bucket, and I put like, you know, when you get cheap 50p lighters and the metal bit comes off. But that was kind of punk, like in the 80s, like loads of punks used to cover like the lapels and all the clipper lighter metal things, and all it was like a metal bucket, and I just like did that around the brim, which you can't really see. Yeah. And the jumper actually was. Actually, I won't talk about
it. Go on, say it. Go on.
Now we made it, and like when they embroidered it, they embroidered like the hem of it with the embroidery, so the hem was caught up here. Hence why it's like asymmetric like that. But I was like, that's the only one we've got. I was like, we've got to use it.
Is that the first? Did the logo exist before that, or was that the first time you used the logo as a?
On clothing, I think it was the first. That might be the first time ever that we've like used it.
Right.
In clothing.
And what year was that?
I can't remember.
Okay. But the thing is, this
11.
Yeah. So the development of your brand was was slow. Like brand, you weren't thinking about like brand development in terms of like. You know,
Not at all. Honestly, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I kind of blagged and I just rolled with it. Let's not say blag. I didn't blag it. I never like tried to pretend or lie to anyone. But I just rolled with it. Yeah. I was just like, I'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
No one's not selling it anyway, so that don't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
this was outside in.
This one we've done like a sound. This is the second time we'd worked with Shiesty, and we've done like a presentation with Shiesty and Lioness, and they just done a set basically. It was at Waterloo again, the old Eurostar Waterloo station, and I think there's a picture. Yeah. So we like created this like fake club scene really. It's like a big sound system. Yeah. Loads of friends again, streetcars like.
But if you go back to that image you showed there, the one before this.
Which one?
That one.
That one.
That's like.
That was our first clothing.
Yeah. And that seems like a really key thing in details that are kind of part of what's become your signature, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And that was just like an experiment. It was like, I really want to make clothes. Let's try and make 2 looks, see what people think. And there was no branding on that. Like, that's another thing when people are like, oh, it's all logo. It's like, we ain't always been logo. There ain't always been that logo there. So, and I think the reason for that is that we just couldn't really, I don't know, we couldn't really, maybe couldn't afford to do certain things like embroideries and printing. We weren't really there yet. So, and then when you've got like hats like this, all those abstract sculptural pieces, there's nowhere to put. You're not going to whack a logo on a leather hand like moulded brim, are you?
Yeah.
So again, it's all the same, like same old references, like Afro-Caribbean culture, like dreadlocks, like I love full head wraps and like turbans, braids.
And this was in women's wear, right? Wasn't it? This was before London Collection Men's. This was shown as part of the women's schedule.
Yeah. So we did always show men's and women's. Shall I carry on?
Yeah, carry on.
This was another one. This was SS13, I think. And this was our first full clothing collection where we did a barbershop set and then we got, again, a whole bunch of MCs to MC, really. Had like Nole, Marga, Flirt D, Cozzy, Murky Ace, FaZe Miyake, like Siobhan Bell was DJing. Like, I think that was SS13, yeah, so 2012.
And that was outside somewhere, wasn't it? That was like, was that in Bedford? What was that? Bedford Square?
I don't know, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. That was there, yeah.
And had you actually started retailing? But what point did you actually sell product? Like, was it actually a...
We started selling clothes. It's so stupid though. Who would want to buy this stuff? We started selling this collection.
Right.
And we got one order.
Yeah.
For 2 historical bonnets and these like frilly teddy bear that we did. I was like, oh great. I don't know why you'd want to buy this, but yeah. Again, I didn't know about business. I don't know. It's kind of funny when I think about it now. It's a disconnect.
But there are things here that like, are now like that. There's the harness there, which is like
the
something that sells. The holster.
Yeah, I love the holster. The holster's been there for a long time. Yeah, that sells. We sold this collection and it done all right. For then, I can't remember how many stockists we got. Maybe it was only like 5 or something. But that was like, you know, you're well chuffed when you got that 5 stockists when you make, especially when you're making stuff like this as well. And like you've got no real financial backing. Like you've got a bit from the British Fashion Council. Like, do you know what I mean? When I felt really proud, I think. But what else is there? That famous pink. Look, again, the only branding was on the boxer shorts. So branding was still quite like low key. Some print T-shirts.
And there's also that. There's that tension as well of like masculinity as well, and like hot guys wearing pink and like.
Why not? Why not? It's sexy, don't it? Like, people like it.
Yeah.
Sex sells, as they say. But again, it was a mixture of like hairstyles, like cartoony hairstyles, like the mesh stuff. Like, I don't know. I suppose it was just. I feel like I don't really have to say much about this. Like that was our world.
Yeah.
I think it was just like solidifying people's like idea of what Nasir Mazhar is.
Yeah.
That's the next collection.
Go on.
It's not these. I don't know why I brought these pictures. But this was SS14, so this was like another like women's wear collection.
And by this point, like you actually started showing on the catwalk, and it's like, and
this was presentation as well.
But the menswear you were showing before, right? Or
SS14 menswear, yeah.
Right.
That was. I think that's the next pictures.
Yeah.
But again, it was like cast of all our friends, like Ebby, who works at Electro PR, and Cassie, who's like knitwear. Sally, we've worked with like loads, and then that's when we've done like all the fringe beading, like the logo beading. Yoon from Ambush. I don't know what to say about it, Charlie.
I mean, the thing is like, it's because we were in the pub a few minutes ago talking about diversity and casting and stuff, and it's always been something which is completely obvious to you to cast just people and not think about, like...
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think it was always like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
so much more beautiful to see all these different like kind of like breeds of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I suppose it was just like bored of just seeing like white people on the runway. It's like, I know I'm white, but it's just boring, isn't it? It's like, so I don't know what to say about it really. It was just, it wasn't ever like a thing. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to change the game.
Yeah.
It was just like, that's just what I was surrounded by. So it was kind of like, why not do it? Like the first two collections was maybe more white, but the first presentation that we done, but that kind of did, that Nicola from Machete like styled that. And again, like I didn't know anything about doing a presentation. They kind of just done it for me.
Yeah.
And I think we had no models of any colour in the first one. Then the second one, there was like, I think 2 black girls and 1 black boy, and then from that third collection where I was like, fuck this, let's actually do what I really want to do. I feel like I've experimented enough now, let's like put some direction into it. And that's when the casting really like came in strong. But I think it was like a no-brainer, like.
And that's what works about it, is that it's natural and it's not a business decision of like, oh, we need to have like some black models, no, we need to have, which other houses are doing. It's just a natural decision of like, this is the way the world is, and like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is. But I just find it weird where people just question it so much and want to talk about it with me so much, not with you asking,
yeah.
but because it's been done for so long now, and it's almost as if some people are just noticing now, but it's years since we've been doing that, like 6 years or like 7 years. But yeah, then it wasn't. I think people just like ignored it. Maybe it was like, oh, this is a weird designer. It's like, that's like new and like fresh. I don't know, whatever they were thinking. Like, I don't know what to say on it, to be honest.
I suppose also because like, as you then became on the kind of formal BFC catwalks, it then was more stark against the other shows that weren't. So I think maybe it became more of a like, oh, here's a show where there's actual just people.
There's real people, yeah. And with like real shape as well. I think some of the pictures I hadn't shown, but we did have girls with like big, like different shapes, like bigger curves or bigger boobs or like a big ass or whatever. We did have that, but it gets really difficult to cast people with different body shapes because it's a nightmare when it comes to sampling. You can't make each sample in like 3 different sizes. It's kind of impossible. You can't make the whole collection in 3 different sizes. Yeah. So if you tend to stick to a sample size, then you know certain type of shape of body is going to fit that. And obviously if things are stretch, it stretches, so it's going to fit. But I wish it was easier to like include more diversity in, say, shape. But it is difficult, to be honest. I've tried, and if you've got then you've got to cast each model and you've got to make samples to fit them. It's so much more work than just having one size. It's so much more work. I think that's why maybe like a lot of people don't have that mixture in like size in their shows. Yeah. But I think you've got no excuse when you're making like stretch jersey collections or knitwear collections, because that stuff stretches. Yeah. And a big girl will fit into a small and a medium and a large. So like there's no excuse, I think, there. But when it's like non-stretch things, it's really difficult.
Can you talk about like, so you've always wanted to keep your clothing affordable, right? That's always been an underlying aim.
Like that's annoyed me the most about what I do, how expensive it is.
Right.
It's ridiculous. It's like you basically you're pricing out the people that you imagine would want to wear it. But now what we're doing is like we've stopped wholesaling on the traditional sense. So in a way, we've almost cut out the middleman, which then will allow us to start lowering our prices. So moving forward, you'll soon see like there'll be a price drop in a lot of our stuff because we will be the sole retailers of it. So we'll be able to price it at a price that is affordable without obviously like bankrupting ourselves. We still have to like make a profit obviously, but it's going to be a smaller profit than what we would charge if we were still wholesaling and doing it in the traditional sense of you sell to a store, say at say if you sell something to a store at £100, they're going to mark it up by say 2.8, 3, 3.4. That would be 340 in store. Whereas now we can go in between the wholesale price and the retail price.
Yeah.
So hopefully, yeah, because it's. I mean, I can't afford my clothes. I can afford a bit here and that, but if I wanted to buy something every month, I couldn't afford it. And if you want to like start experimenting with style, like I think one of the things is that how do we expect style to evolve when what we're offering is completely ridiculous? Like you can't. How are people supposed to experiment and try explore their style and fashion when you can't even afford it? You're not really offering a solution to the problem, I don't think. So I think if we want style to evolve and people to start dressing in different ways, experimenting, I think you need to offer something that they can actually afford. Because all good and well saying like, oh, it's aspirational. It's not aspirational. It's rude, because you know you see it. It's in your face all the time, like shows and websites and all of that. It's like you see it all the time. It's like I can't afford it. Like I can't afford it. Can't afford it again. Can't afford it again. So I think a big reason for that is hopefully it will have an effect on maybe how people might dress in like years to come. Like imagine if a lot of people do it. Like all the crazy things that you see designers make, you never ever see anybody wearing it. You only see it on models. It's really boring. I'd love to see people wearing it in the street. I'd love to go in a club and see like some wild style. But instead, we just see the same old stuff because you can't afford it. And what you can afford is either high street or sports shops. And obviously, they're not really pushing, like they're not doing experimental shapes or design at all. It's very like common clothing, shall we say. So
it's interesting also because like with the show being about youth, but there are so many brands that do alleged youth, like Saint Laurent, which is actually an idea of youth sold to 40-year-old, 50-year-olds who want to look younger. Yeah, well, that's the point. The price tags are that high because it's for older people who want to pretend they're still young. I'm one of them. I mean, like but that's how fashion works. Is they make a look which is allegedly young, but actually it's for older people to pretend they're still young.
Yes, good for them, really. Good on them, isn't it? But it's not cool though. How is it cool to sell like some of our jumpsuits like almost £400? That's not cool. What's cool? Like seriously, that's not cool at all. Who are you making that for? Somebody like who? Like, so I hope I do hope there's some sort of a change. I think a lot of people feel like you have to be a designer and to be in like Selfridges or wherever department store, big Colette or something. It's like really cool, but reality it's not that cool. Like I go into Colette and I'm like, it's like a supermarket. The queue is out the door, and it's just like bits and bobs when you walk in, and then you go upstairs and it's not cool clothing really. It's designer clothing, but it's not. You don't feel it's not cool. So I think like, why aren't there more people like doing market stalls for like? I know it might sound naff, but I think that's so much like. I think that's cool. Open a shop. You've got houses. Open a shop in your house. Like it's underground. You're gonna get a customer base that truly want you, not because. I mean, it's good to get people into your stuff when they just walk into a shop, never heard of you, and they're like, "Oh, what's this?" That's great. But I think when you've got something where someone's they've either found out about it somewhere, or someone's told them about it, and you've got to make that effort to go to some like weird back street or like go into someone's like bedroom or wherever. I think that's interesting. That's different. Like how many boutiques have we all been into in department stores? All look the same experience, same service. It's the same. But I'd actually be quite excited to go into some I don't know, somewhere in like Halsden, to some like back street, into someone's living room where they've set up a shop. And it's really, and it's interesting clothing. Don't mean your clothing has to change or you have to like downgrade your techniques or whatever, your quality. Keep it the same, but
have a point of view and do something.
Do something different, like offer something different. Yeah. And I don't know, personally, like it was making clothes that friends wanted to wear, and like when your friends can't afford it, and then you can't afford it, there's definitely a big problem, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that, for me as a critic, is most exciting about your work is the fabric development and fabric choices you make. And most shows, there's a few looks where, like, most shows you're like, oh, you can work out what it is as soon as it walks out. But there are so often you're like, what is that? Like, what is that? No, I mean, I know this, but like, but there are, but you use, like, you really, you engage in fabric and you engage in different materials, right? I mean,
yeah. I go to PV, do my fabric research, but yeah, I don't know what you want.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, I mean, I suppose I'm really happy that, like, we've been speaking for, like, however long we've been speaking for now. It's sort of like a long time actually, but and we've not yet said the dreaded word sportswear or streetwear. Like, we talk about it as fashion, and there's the thing that is that your work is fashion and it is clothing, and it's as valid as tailoring or whatever. And one of the things that gets me most excited is the way that you engage in so many different fabrics in a garment, which is a zip-up or a pair of track pants. Like, there's so much complexity to the work.
Thank you. I suppose. But I mean, I don't know what to say, Charlie. Maybe there is. But it's still seen the streetwear though, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people still see it as streetwear. But my thing, I don't know if I like... My thing with that the whole streetwear thing, because it does piss me off. But for me, I've always seen streetwear, or not even always, that's a lie. I didn't even know what streetwear was like. That, to me, I think that's kind of like a recent thing. But when I was growing up, streetwear was... What's streetwear? Like, I feel like streetwear is kind of like a bit more of an older term, and I don't know, maybe came in as like a... When did it ever come about? Like, I don't know. For me, it was always like skater brands, T-shirts, printed sweats, like basic shorts, kind of simple silhouettes, not much detailing, branded. And like, we don't really do print stuff, firstly. Don't really make that many T-shirts, to be honest. Didn't make one this season, didn't make one the season before, maybe had one style the season before. Don't really do print jumpers, done like couple of print jumpers in the whole of my life. So I don't see why we're always branded as streetwear. But...
And also look at luxury brands, and they're all doing zip-ups and track pants now, like, but in cashmere or whatever. But like the move in alleged luxury brands is towards more informal, non-suit and tie clothing. Yeah. I just think that we're in an industry which is deeply, deeply conservative, even though it's allegedly about forward movement, like the word fashion is about allegedly moving forward. But our industry is one which wants things to stay the same and wants last year to look like this year pretty much, because they know what to buy. And the thing is that you've always made choices that were right for you rather than right for what an industry would necessarily decide for you.
But it's difficult though.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult, because then you're surrounded by all these other designers, and like the industry's telling you have to do like this, and you have to like wholesale, and you've got to reach these figures, and you've got to like reach these markups. You're kind of like stuck, and you don't know, because especially when you don't have like loads of money and loads of backing to make you feel confident in whatever you want to do, because you're like, do you know what? If it doesn't sell, it don't matter, because I can still pay my rent, and I can still pay my staff, and I can still like feed myself. But when you don't have that, you are scared, and it is really, really risky. Because if you like, I could go bust in like one season, like one bad move, I'm like done, because I don't have a pot of money, and I don't have like family backing me. Like, don't worry about it. So you are kind of stuck, and to make a drastic change is a huge risk. And by us not wholesaling is a massive risk. We could go bust, really, because all of a sudden, like, we've cut all of our income off. Which, like, you'd think, why would you, like, that's how it is, like, that's what we're doing. We're like, no, say whatever, we've been doing hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of sales, and then for one season to be like, I don't want that hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of sales now. So then you're stuck with, as in, like, the situation we're in. I now have to fund all of my own personal order for the, say, online shop or for our store that's coming. Got to fund it all myself, Like, that's really difficult. That's like really, really difficult. So it's...
But you took the decision to take control.
Yeah, because you know what? If I had to carry on like running a business, like doing the wholesale, all my stuff being that expensive, I don't want to do it. It's just, there's no point. Like,
we should explain that actually by wholesale, it means like actually selling stock to other stores, so other stores sell it. So basically from now on, pretty much the only place you can buy it will be your website, and like 3 and 4 other stores around the world, whereas previously it's been loads and loads of stores internationally. Like it's a...
Yeah. If it was to stay like that and our pricing being so expensive, and also it's not even that, it restricts your creatively as well, because all I was getting was designer stores coming in and be like, have you got a logo jumper? Where's the logo stuff? I'm like, I haven't done it this year. And they're like, oh, we're not going to order then. We really wanted the logo stuff. I'm like, how late are you? Like, we've been like getting rid of the logo for like 3 seasons, and now you're asking me for logo stuff. Like, you're so late. And you know, they come in and like, we just want sweats under £100 wholesale. We want T-shirts at this price. And it's like, oh, fuck's sake. All I was like stressing out, like, oh, I've got to make 3 T-shirts and I've got to do 2 jumpers. And it's like, all of a sudden, I'm like, what am I doing? You want these T-shirts and you want this and you want this and you want this. And I'm stressing myself out. Instead of thinking like, oh, what can I do? Like, what's going to be really new? What's really going to get people excited? Instead of thinking like that, like, what's really going to excite me? I'm thinking, how can I make fucking 2 jumpers under £100? Like, that's not how a creative person should be thinking. But the reality is of the industry is that is how it is. And they do want those cheaper pieces. Stores want cheaper pieces because people are spending less and less money in stores. Like, there's so many like rip-offs of everything. It's like the cheaper it is, the more you're going to sell. And I was just like,
I think also the lesson is as well is that like we're really good at educating about how you start up and how you go meet Lulu and Fashionista, or how you then become New Gen, and we're really good at that. And then I think we're really bad at what happens next, and the fact that it doesn't get any easier, and it's like you have to always keep making decisions all the way through to how to write your business, rather than letting it become this thing that you can't control and that you don't like. I mean, like...
Yeah. I think we're at a very exciting point, to be honest. It's almost like turning point, like anything could happen now. I think anything could happen and it'd kind of it would be welcomed, I think, because people are just so bored of just the way retailing works, the way shows work, the way catwalk show, how a collection looks as a whole collection. Like, everyone's just, I feel so bored. And I've got loads of designer friends and everyone's like, I'm fucking sick to death of production. Like, any of you who wants to do designing and want to run your own label, production will kill you. It's the most complex, like, frustrating, like, disaster zone. Like, there's disasters constantly, and like, one mistake in whatever, one factory messes up, does one thing wrong on 100 pieces, that's like 100 pieces effed, got to throw in the bin. They're not going to refund you your money for the fabrics. You might not pay for the production of it, but you've lost 50K's worth of orders, and you've lost the money that you invested in the materials as well. It's just like it can kill you, and production is constantly a nightmare. There's not one pleasurable part of production, producing your orders. I've never spoke to one designer who's going to say it's really easy, because you're dealing with 5 different factories. Especially with us, where we wouldn't before, like, I don't know, it's like 20 different fabrics, God knows how many different trims, how many different developments, like embroideries and like pleatings and like transfers and all sorts. Like, there's so much scope for things to go wrong. And when you're dealing with like thousands of pieces in all these different factories, and you don't have a team to deal with that, like, we've got one person on production, like, which is like maybe all right, but then it's just hell. It's like hell. And then in the stores, the way it works is that you take your orders on the collection, then you've got a period to take it to get your deposits. Getting deposits, nightmare. You're chasing deposits for like a month. But the longer you chase your deposits, the closer you get to your delivery window without even starting production. So then So you're chasing deposits, that's late. So that's delayed you by loads. Then you send it to the factories, always a million delays, always. And then that delays your production even more. Then it comes to like delivering, and then if you miss your delivery window, then they want 30% discount, or you've got to send it on SOR.
Sale or return, sorry. And it just gets delayed, and then you just end up squashing yourself, and the clothes get squashed out of you because the factories have messed it up, and then your bit of profit that you were going to get, that starts getting squashed out of you because the stores are like, oh, you're late, you're like 5 days late or a month late, we want a discount now. And it's honestly like, so that's another reason why I'm to stop as well, because I was done with doing production, whereas when we'd sell it ourselves, it's all small runs. It's like, okay, we're going to do this jacket, let's just make 10 and see if it works. It's manageable. Like, you can manage everything small. You can do like, let's produce these 3 looks, say it's 6 pieces, and because we're selling it ourselves, I'm not sure about how it's going to sell, I'll say let's make 10 of that. Just do 10 of everything first. It's much more manageable. It's actually pleasurable. It's actually nice to be like, oh, they've made it so nicely. Like, we've moved all our production back, most of it back to the UK, which does mean it's a bit more expensive, but is it that much more expensive when you think of, you've got to send, when you're working abroad, you have to send your sample there, there's that cost. They've got to send it back, there's that cost. Then you've got to send it all back again, that's another cost. Send it, but that's all courier costs, like, abroad, and it's not just like an envelope, it's like 15 boxes or whatever, like, that costs a lot. So like, when you move it back to London, it might cost you a bit more in terms of the factory cost per piece, but you might actually save a lot, and you can control it. And I can go to the factory. We can go to the factory every day and be like, "What are you doing? Perfect. That's nice. No, change this. Do this like that." Can't do that when it's abroad. Can if you've got a massive team, but when you start off, you don't have a massive team. So it's basically about making decisions to make your life as a designer and as a creative person as enjoyable as possible, rather than it being a nightmare. And what's the point of doing it?
Yeah, because I used to feel like an artist. I used to just make whatever I wanted to make. Like, a lot of those early things was like, let's just literally make whatever I want to make. And then you just, that gets squeezed out of it. And you see it in people's collections. You see it in young designers' collections, and then you see it in very experienced designers' collections. It's like you're constantly like churning out. And everyone goes on about how they're like being rinsed with all these pre-collections, whatever. It's like, we don't have to work in that way anymore. Like, we have other platforms to sell stuff. You have online, you can open your own shop. You can do a market stall. Like, I think I did want to do a market stall, but like, in the 80s and 90s, that was the thing. Like, Lee Barry saw this stuff on the market. Like, didn't Catherine
Kensington Market and Camden Market.
Kensington, Camden, like all of these. Like, Westwood had her little shop, like doing like all that stuff. And at that time, people probably thought, God, what is this trash? Yeah. Who is this like slut with her ass out, like making crappy clothes? And like, that's collectible stuff now. Yeah. So it might feel really naff, like, to like go and open a market store in Shepherd's Bush Market, but I think that's cool. I think that's like fucking so cool. Yeah, don't do it in any market. Like, if the product is good and you've got a strong image of what you're doing, and there's direction, and it's something that not everyone, it's a new product that not everybody else is doing, that's cool, regardless where you sell it. Whether you sell it in the world's like best boutique, or if you sell it on, I think doing it on the market gives you more creds. Personally, for me, for what I'm into and what excites me, that gives you more cred than being like, oh, I want to sell in Colette. And don't get me wrong, if I was sold in Colette, I would love it, because it is like, that place is ram-packed every time I've ever been. There's a queue out the door, and it is like one of the best shops in Paris. I don't want to slag it off completely. Like, it is a really good shop, but I don't know, it's just not that. It's not cool, it's not underground. I don't think you're changing anything. You're just like adding to the problem. Same old cycle of how to be a fashion label, and it's like, it's not, you don't have to be that. Like.
And the thing is, this is going back to what I was saying at the beginning about being an individual and being
make your own
yourself.
Way, find your own way, yeah. I think, yeah. But it is hard. I think it is hard when you've got no other role models. That's the thing. When you don't have other people doing that, like, I think it can be difficult because it's risky and it's scary, and you think, what are people going to say? who cares what people are going to say? Like, who are you doing it for, yourself or what other people are going to say? So, yeah.
We've been chatting for a super long time, so is it
Too much?
Yeah.
All that
Has anyone got any questions at all? Please do have questions.
Someone must have questions.
Okay. Well, we actually have them, yeah.
Yeah, but as a consumer, like I'd like to think that I've got enough of my own identity and my own mind to be able to not rely on a boutique or whoever or a magazine or a figure to tell me what is cool or not. I think you should be able to find out. You should be the judge of what is cool and what is not. I think, rather than an institute or someone telling you what is. I think there's definitely going to be a turning point where people have already started to move out, definitely. Like, everyone's going to Margate, like Margate's going to be like this trend spot, but it's like, I don't think you even have to move out that far. You could just move to like Romford. But it's this thing, like people laugh at Romford, hello, it's like in Essex, but has anyone ever been to Romford? It's got like they've got clubs there where you can start nights. You can start your own nights. They've got a shopping centre, it's got everything there. Got a train direct to Liverpool Street. But seriously, like, rent is ridiculous. Like, I lived in Stoke Newington. I had a studio for 10 years, and I was really lucky because we got it like ages ago. And because I'd been there so long, we had masses of space for like £600, like masses. And then after we got kicked out, and to try and find the same space in Hackney was like £4,500 rent a month. So like, you're in central London and then you're in Hackney, but so what? I don't know. Like, it doesn't really like matter. I don't think there's that many perks to it anymore. Even like the people that like it used to maybe be more exciting because it was like raw and rough and like, but now it's not. I don't know. It's not really like that anymore. Like, I moved back home to Forest Gate. Found nice studios, like space. I've got a park near me. Like, it's 10 minutes to Liverpool Street. It's like, it's fine. I just don't think you need to. There's other ways. That's what, like, there is. It's just weird. I feel like people used to care less about those things, and now it's like you need to live in Dalston or Hackney or Shoreditch to like,
If you look
to
back
be validated or to be cool or something. But
and if you look back at the old punk stories, like everyone lived out of town, then didn't they? Everyone lived like deep in the suburbs in the early punk days because they couldn't afford to live in what was then presumably super cheap central London. I mean, like, it's always been the suburbs has always been important.
yeah.
There was a question.
At the moment, we've got. Again, it was like a slow, natural thing, but at the moment we have like Deville, who's like she's my main girl. She's like been with me for quite a long time now, and she's like studio manager. She does like a lot of the technical work, and she looks after all of our interns. So she's like my right-hand girl. And then usually you'll have, say, like that studio manager or your right hand, and then you have, say, someone from production, because production, once your orders start getting big, it's a full-time job and very complicated and complex, and you need someone on it like all the time. And that's all we've got at the moment. We had another girl as well, Fran, who was working on developments and part production as well, artworks and stuff. But again, like where we're stopping the wholesale, we can like shrink our team down as well. We don't need, like, at one point we had, I think there was like 5 employees because we were doing 4 collections a year. So we had like Deville, then her assistant, then a production manager, and then a product developer and me. But obviously now where we've changed, we don't need like so many people. Like, it's more manageable and it's more realistic as well, you know, like when you've got that much staff, you need to be like making a lot of money to be able to pay them and your rent every month. That just goes like without even making any money, that's going. So I mean, I was really proud of like everything I've done and I'm doing, but it's very slow, you know. It's not like one day we're like, oh, I'm just doing stuff, and the next day I've got a team of staff and I've got a business, and like, it's very, very gradual. So it just comes naturally. Like, you slowly start to understand things, and I had a lot of help from the British Fashion Council and like the Centre for Fashion Enterprise. So they kind of educated me and like kind of show you the ropes of how to do it. But yeah, I don't know, like how to. I don't know exactly what you mean by how did it feel. Let's see, first coming up is like AW16, so the collection that we just last showed, that will be coming up. And then after that, let's see. That's what we're kind of restructuring now and just working out exactly what we're going to be producing and exactly what we're going to be doing. So I can't say exactly, but definitely what's first coming is like, yeah, AW16 collection is going to be releasing in the next few weeks, I think.
But also, we didn't also say that this is all happening at a time where there's mass change in the fashion industry in general, and there's this thing you might have heard about called See Now, Buy Now, where some brands are going to be showing straight away after, selling the clothes straight away after the runway show, and it's at a time where it's in every designer's best interest to be thinking long and hard about how they sell. So it's a time of change for everyone, right? I mean, it's not just
Yeah, it's not just me, really. But I think I don't know, it's a tricky time, I think. I think a lot of people are going to go down.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I'm not joking. It's like, it's really hard, you know, and buyers have started to buy less.
Yeah.
Less buyers are coming to London as well. Like, buyers are telling me, we're not going to come. We're not going to come to London, we'll just go to Paris. It's like, I think it's like a make or break time for, I think, a lot of brands, personally. I think me included in that, you know, anything could happen to us as well.
But I think it's even more then important what you were saying about taking control and doing what you want rather than thinking about what the buyers, or for example, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
Yeah, I thought this is the way for me to like survive and to free myself up creatively and to manage what I'm doing myself without being dictated to by, like, say, some stores. Because not all stores are horrible. Like, some stores are really nice to work with, really, really pleasurable. Pay you on time, orders on time, everything's on time. It's just, there's a lot that are not. My opinion on See Now, Buy Now, I think it's great to do it. It's just hard to do it when you're small and doing wholesale. Because if we were to offer that, I couldn't afford to offer that to my stores, say, produce what I think quantity-wise without no deposits. That's impossible. What's like produce orders for 30 stores and with a range of, I don't know, 100 and however many pieces, like, it's really difficult. When you're a massive brand, I think you can do it. But like brands like Burberry, like, do they sell in department stores? They've always got their own concession, right?
But then most of their sale is I mean, the thing with Burberry is that the bulk of their business is in really predictable trenches, scarves, stuff that they don't need to design as a radical thing, so they know what they're going to sell.
And they've got history of figures of what they sell. But when you're, to be small, it's impossible. That's why I thought if I cut out the stores and I focus on selling it myself, I can dictate, I can know what's manageable. Be like, if this month I've only got however much money to produce 20, 30 pieces, that's what I'll produce that month. And if I don't, I won't. But what do I have to say to Tim Blanks about that? I think that's wrong. I don't agree. I don't agree that styling is too outlandish. Maybe sounds like it's maybe talking about specific people. And it's not that outlandish, really, is it? Do you think? I don't think shows in general the styling is that outlandish. I think it's quite conservative, to be honest.
I mean, it depends on what the show is and who it is. And it's so
Most shows. I think, who is he talking about? Charles Jeffrey. That's like a style, like... Oh, I don't know what he's talking about then, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Personally, I don't think styling is like over the top or anything. Like, and even if it was, like, so what? It's good. People should be showing people how to like style things up, giving them some other options rather than here's a two-piece suit. Like, that's dry.